So yeah, looking at paths here for trade of the day, I'll look at potential price paths for some of these coins. And look, some of the obvious ones, like with Cardano, it can either stop here, which is a previous strong support, to flip to resistance, and then could confirm it as support. But I would look at it and be looking at something similar to what it did back in May 2022. So when it last came into that 40 cent level, it took 150 days, so it took 5 months for it to actually break through. Now, regardless of whether it breaks bullish or bearish, that amount of time I'm looking at seems like a fair enough reaccumulation zone. Meaning, if Cardano's going to hold this 40 cent level, then I would expect something similar. Right, 5 months for something like Cardano would be September. That would take out Q2 as being bearish, get into Q3 as being consolidation, and then Q4 into the end of the year. Then we start to rally again on some of these shit coins. And I think it's actually better to look at the shit coins than the, good stuff in air quotes. Right, your trending stuff, your Pepes, your WIFs, your Bodens, and Bitcoin itself or Solana. They'll probably do their own thing. And I think what is better to look at are some of the older shitty projects that don't have any real, nobody buys them, right? No one cares. They had pretty weak rallies off the lows. Like Cardano went like 3x, considering Bitcoin went, 3x as well, just from October. That's poor, right? That's bad performance. You don't buy fucking Cardano to keep pace with BTC. And Ripple's another one, which we'll look at in a moment. So I would see it as, obviously, first of all, this is a downtrend and it's distributing, and this might just be a temporary hold before it actually retraces the entire move. And so if things got really bad, I would expect to see it unwind all the way down before forming a low there, right? Full retrace, just like it did back in December until June, rallied up, full retrace, a few months of accumulation, away it goes again. There's no reason why it couldn't do that. Like, many of these will have broken finally, broken their downtrends, but not all of them. And I think when you go and look at the real shitty stuff, that's the stuff that has the potential to retrace its entire move. Because Cardano was shit back in January 23, and what did it do? Rallied up a bit and went all the way back. Cardano's still shit in April 2024. So it rallied up a bit, go all the way back. I don't see why the exact same thing couldn't happen in terms of rallied up, distribution, runs all the way down. So there's two paths I would look at roughly. The main thing I'm still coming back to is that time, right, is needed. And that's important because when does the shit stuff run, right? Bitcoin was up all year. So even throughout all of 2023, Bitcoin was green, right? Bitcoin went like this. Bitcoin was up and then consolidated and then up, right? Whereas Cardano full tripped and retraced. So it's actually important to look at the shit stuff, the stuff that nobody wants, as your best guide for when the whole market will rally, right? Because Cardano could only have its rally when the entire market was rallying. So if you're looking at that, when's the next big full market rally? Probably needs quite a bit of time because a lot of these shitcoins don't look like they're, in any state to be rallying yet. You get stuff like this, like Ripple as well. So, trended up through its range. Still can't get above that 53 cent level, which is the important weekly level. Just keeps breaking structure, breaking down. And, this whole thing is just a complete mess. It's a complete mess. It's below the biggest support resistance level that it's had throughout its entire existence, right? And just choppy. Certainly not a coin that is in a position to trend. Can it rally? It has taken out stops all the way back from September and even as far back as August. Not many coins have taken out their August lows. So in the near term, could Ripple have a strong pump? Sure. But I wouldn't say that's strength. And I think that's going to lead it into a further decline. And then maybe, again, once the market gets going, it's able to have a proper rally, but probably only after it consolidates at that level. So the reason why I was looking at Cardano was because actually it's a good example of whiff. So Cardano last cycle, when Cardano was good, not good tech, but good coin because the price went up, and people did want to buy it, back then, that was much more of a tradable market for Cardano. And one of the things it did, which is similar to whiff, is that it had a big trend up, right? A strong rally up, and then a full retrace of like a blow off top type move. Okay, and let me remove all this shit here. Full retrace of that move and a bounce. Whiff has had that full retrace of the move and a bounce. So another thing I'm looking at would be something similar for whiff, right? Where it's chopping around at this level, retesting the lows one more time, holding and starting to rise. Again, leads into probably another month, maybe 6 weeks before we start to see some upwards moving. Also take note that that next move was the top for Cardano. And I don't think you want to be, whiff to 10 billion or whatever if it does start to break out. You have to understand, right now, people are questioning, is it over? Right? And rightly so. I don't mean that it is over, but it's right to question it, because the performance of most of the market has been pretty poor, indicating that there's not a huge amount of new money coming in or huge amount of interest in crypto as a whole outside of the smaller trends we have. And whiff is liquid, right? Meaning it's on all the big exchanges, or most of them. You can fill big positions, and I believe smart money and big players will be filling big positions of whiff with the sole intention of it making a new all-time high and then distributing. This is exactly what happened to Cardano. People saw Cardano's big pump in May 21, came back down to strong support. And so if you see whiff doing this, understand that's smart money supporting it. And the sole intention of Cardano back then was to take it from $1 to $3, or just whatever, above all-time high, for a quick 3x in size, right? You could fill any amount of millions you wanted of Cardano. 3x, boom, distribute on it at the top when there's loads of volume, loads of hype, loads of interest. And then it was over. I don't think that you need to fall in love with any specific coin and think that it's going to somehow be different. I'm pretty sure that the goal of the next phase for any of these coins that are down here in this accumulation, the goal of the next phase is to take profit at all-time highs. Dumb money don't learn their lessons. Smart money do. Smart money know. If this is potentially over, but then we're lucky enough to get another run, profit taking becomes the name of the game. So if you're getting whiff at 2 and getting out at 6, it's another 3x. It's a 3x in size. And trust me, when there's guys trading 7, 8, 9 figures, they're going to take their 2x, their 3x. So, a few weeks, I still think, is ahead of us. I think these calls of alt season are premature. Is stuff going to rally? Sure, absolutely. But I don't think it is. I think as a whole, like total 3 can go to new lows, which doesn't mean that all coins will, right? I think total 3 can go to new lows. If it doesn't flip the 50 and the bands, right here, if it's not able to flip those, I think on this next push, if this rally continues, if it runs up into the 50 and the bands and isn't able to flip them, that's going to new lows, most likely, right, where it'll then rally again and then probably start to form a base around the January levels where this whole thing began. That makes sense to me. If this rally is distributing and this is still distribution, then it will distribute all the way back to the lows, even as people say it can't. And then it will reaccumulate from there as people say it's over, because it shouldn't go that low if it's still a bull market, right? But of course it can. And that's the actual area of strong support, right? Now, how does that get invalidated? It's very, very easy. It's very simple. We know where it gets invalidated. This is why it's such a good spot to be doing your analysis. Do not check out of the market in the next 2 months if it gets boring. This is peak opportunity, because you have total 3, which is the top 150 altcoins. So basically your altcoin market. at a key level where there is currently definite support, right? So this is either the bottom or we go lower, meaning if there's a move up and a move back and it holds, bottom's in. And then you can really start to look into getting heavily into alts, I would say, when it's somewhere around there. If it is actually alt season, you're going to see that. We go straight up, quick dip, and then it's going to make new highs from there. So that's one of those moves where you're going to have to be fast. I would say fast, it's a daily chart. But that's going to be the hardest one to trade because, you know, it's going to go straight up. You're going to feel like, buy a pullback. There's not going to be a pullback. I don't think that's a likely path, but it's possible. And so there's your three paths. But this is why this area matters so much. And these levels always become inflection levels. So think about it. Why do these levels become inflection levels? Because we had a big crash into it, which got people emotional. So they're going to be really bearish below it, and they're going to be slow to get bullish above it. That's important to note as well. People are going to be really bearish if it goes below this point. But also, if it goes back above here, because of the pain, people are not going to be bullish here because they're sidelined, right? They got liquidated, they got stopped out, they're waiting for a pullback. And that's why these areas offer so much opportunity. So for me, right now, I think you're going to see moves in both directions to continue. Bullish, bearish, bullish, bearish. People flip-flop and bias every day or every week. I don't think there's any bias to have here except down. Doesn't mean you have to short though. The reason of the bias for down is just purely because Bitcoin's in a downtrend, right? And if Bitcoin's in a downtrend, then expect the downtrend to continue until it doesn't. But that can also be, just like a John hit, that can also be a bounce right up into here, into the bands, into the 50, and still be bearish and go lower. But also, and this is where it gets tricky, because this bounce into here would not be bullish, right? Into the bands, into the 50, would not be bullish, could easily go to new lows. But also, it would be a 60k reclaim. So what's everyone going to be doing? Oh, bullish, right? And it could actually be the start of a new run. So you're going to have these periods where it's going to be super confusing. How do you navigate a confusing market? You have a plan and you stick to that plan, right? I'll go back to that one. So for Bitcoin, if it's going to follow your plan, at least for me, my plan is very clear. Bitcoin gets completely bullish, right? Undeniably bullish. I'm talking new all-time highs bullish, not, oh, it's a bounce into the range, blah, blah. Actual all-time high bullish, bull market's back when it breaks 64, which is the big volume area, and the daily breakdown level, and look at the bands. If it goes there, it will flip the bands green, the daily bands. It will flip the 50 back from resistance into support, okay? And it will clear that key level. And from there, you should expect that the bottom's in wherever the bottom was. And actually, you can now look at much higher targets. You're then looking at spot buys as targeting 80, 90, 100. Because that's how it would move if it reclaims that level. There's no reason for it to reclaim that level unless it's bullish. Now, obviously the other thing that can happen there is, let's say we're going to range for summer. It reclaims that. It's still going to go up, most likely. So instead of going to all-time highs, it would go up towards range high, find resistance, come back down, find support, chop around, we go a bit longer, and then we break out. That'd be if Bitcoin's going to set up a range. But I think the key thing to note here is, if Bitcoin is bearish and distributing, it won't even get to 64 or 66. So that's one of your key things as well. If it gets to 64, 66 area, even if it's not the breakout yet, even if it's just setting up a range, I think that makes Bitcoin bullish. And then I think that the path is upwards. So get above 64, 66 at any point in the next few weeks. I think that means that this year Bitcoin does go higher as it's showing that strength. A little bit like it did back over here, right? So the 25k retest was key. This was a 9-month range with a nice consolidation at the highs, a quick shakeout, then we broke up, okay? Perfect, bullish. We then had a slow declining volume correction into that level, which is exactly what you want to see as a price action trader. It was a perfect Wyckoff retest. And then you had this big impulse off the lows, broken all the structure. So If Bitcoin was going to be bearish and break down into the 20s and actually be really sketchy, it should have done. It didn't. It broke here, and all the way up. It broke all these structure levels right up to the highs. That meant Bitcoin was bullish. Now what happened? It did not go straight to the moon, but it was a show of strength. And so even though it took 4, 6, 7 months, 4 or 5 months, 25k was rock solid. That was the bottom. That was strength. That showed us the strength. It just needed another touch, and then boom, away we go. Right? So look at this very, very closely. It's not 60k for me. Reclaiming 60k is good, but reclaiming 60k does not mean bull market is back, because obviously look at this, right? 60k, turn off the candles, turn on the line chart. Oh, we reclaimed 60k. Cool. Still just a downtrend, right? But undeniable levels. The big volume level of 64. The bands flipping back green. And even if we get a move to the highs like we did in June last year, if it then pulls back, you're looking at support to form, probably at 60, and away we go. Remember that, because we have not had a quick bull market shakeout. This is important. This is super important. If we are going to have a quick shakeout that doesn't have a pullback, it's here. Right? It's 30 days, it's short. And it is 30 days, almost always. Right? 11th of January, quick flush out. By the 11th of February, we're breaking out again. A month. 2021, 8th of January, quick shakeout.